Hey, welcome back to Blender. This is a tutorial on how to add text and make it 3D so that you can print, for example, a nameplate or a positive message. So this is the default startup file, and you'll notice that you have your camera, your cube, and your lamp. We are going to begin by deleting the cube. So we're going to press X and delete. Now the cube is gone. Anytime you get confused or lost, you can always go File, New, Reload Startup File. So don't worry about messing anything up. So again, we're going to press X and then delete. You'll notice right now that this life preserver is in the center of the scene. If I click somewhere else, that preserver will move, and if I want to get it back to the center, I can just press Shift and C. And that'll center it back in. I'm going to press Control and slide 2 fingers to zoom back in. Okay, so wherever this life preserver is, that is where your text is going to get added. So I'm going to press Shift and A, and this gives me the Add menu. I'm going to come down the Add menu all the way until I get to Text. Now I'm going to click on Text, and now you'll see I've had a text object added to my scene. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to rotate the object so that it's sitting nicely for my current view. So I'm going to press on my key R, and then I'm going to press X because I want to rotate it around the X axis. And then I'm going to press 90 because I want to rotate it 90 degrees. Then I'm going to press Enter to accept. Now that it's standing up, I'm much happier, but I also want to turn it 90 degrees. So I am going to be rotating it 90 degrees around the Z axis. So I'm going to press R, Z, 90. Enter. Ta-da! I've got my text just where I want it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move into edit mode. Right now, you can see here that I'm in object mode, but in order to change the letters in the text, I need to be in edit mode. So I can move to edit mode by pressing the Tab button, Tab, Edit, Tab, back to object. I can also change modes by clicking here and choosing Edit. So you'll notice that when I was in object mode, I had this text selected. You can tell it's selected because it's bright orange. If I press the A key, I deselect everything, so it's gone. Now it's not yellow anymore. If I want to select it again, I can right-click, and now I've selected it by right-clicking. So with the object selected, I'm going to press Tab to get into edit mode, and you can see now that I'm in edit mode. Then I'm going to press backspace, and I'm actually making a name tag for Mr. Michael, so I'm going to type Mr. M-R, and then I'm going to give in a dot and a space, and then Michael. So I've typed Mr. Michael, and if I press Tab to go into object mode, you'll see, ta-da, Mr. Michael, and doesn't that look nice? The problem is, and I'm just using 2 fingers to slide my view around a little bit on my trackpad, and now I'm going to press Shift and slide 2 fingers to move it over a bit. So you can see now, 2 fingers sliding, Shift and slide it up. You can see that Mr. Michael's name is really only 2-dimensional, and we want to make it a lot thicker. So what I'm going to do, pressing Shift to slide this thing over a bit, is I'm going to come over here to this area. You can hover a little bit here and you'll get these 2 arrows, and if I click and slide, I can make this bigger. So this is a major command zone in Blender, and you're going to really love what you can do over here. You can see here there's a little font tool. This will only show up if you're working with a text object. So if I click on this F, I've now come into the place to modify things to do with the font. So the first thing I can do is I can actually change what font I'm working in. And to do that, I can click on this filing cabinet down here, and I can go to my libraries and my fonts, and I have all these fonts to choose from. Now, I would, even a Kamai font. Ooh. I am just going to go ahead and go plain and simple here with Arial Bold, but you do have options and there's lots for you to play around with. So I'm going to double click and that's going to set that font. So now it's Arial Bold. But we can see here that there's lots of space between each letter and I would like my letters to be closer together. So I have an option. If I scroll down here a little bit, I can see the spacing. So I have my spacing between words, which I can change here. So if I click on this arrow, you can see that the words are getting closer together. I'm going to keep a little bit of space there. But what I really want to do is decrease the spacing between letters. Ooh, see that? Really squishing it in. That's maybe a bit too squished. So I'm going to bring it out a little bit. And actually, I think that looks pretty nice, except I want it just in between there. So to get an exact number, I'm going to click here, and then I'm going to press delete to start over, and I'm going to choose 0.85 and see how that looks. And actually, that is pretty much exactly what I wanted. And the only thing I'd say now is that the dot and the M are too close together, so I'm going to increase the spacing between my words. So there we go. Mr. Michael with the letters nice and close together. And I like that. But we still have our problem, which is that Mr. Michael is two-dimensional and we want him to be three-dimensional. So to change that, we are actually going to scroll back up, still working in the font area. And you can see here extrude. So if I just bump this up, I'm going to just go ahead and click here because it's going too slowly. I'm going to press 1. Okay, that's too big, right? That's just way too big. So I want it, what, like a quarter of that? So I'm going to try pressing 0.25. That is actually pretty nice, but even maybe still too big, so I'm going to try 0.2. What do you think? I think even just a little bit smaller. I'm going to try 0.15. Yeah, I like that. Okay, Mr. Michael. So now if I just print this on the 3D printer, what's going to happen is the letters are going to fall free from each other. And I want this to sit securely all together. So even though I've got my text a nice thickness, the font I want, the closeness together that I want, I'm just going to press Control and slide 2 fingers to zoom in, Shift and slide 2 fingers to slide it over. I'm thinking this is nice, Mr. Michael, but I want to add a little shape underneath it to make a block. So I'm going to make sure that I'm in object mode, and I'm going to press A to deselect all. Now I'm going to make sure that my cursor is still centered. The reason why I want to make sure it's centered is when I add the object, I don't want it to be just slightly leaning forwards or backwards. I want it to be exactly parallel and perpendicular to all my points in this 3D world. So I'm going to press Shift-C just to make sure my cursor is absolutely centered. And I'm going to press Control and slide 2 fingers and Shift and slide 2 fingers to kind of get myself back into the frame here. Control, slide, Shift, slide. And then now I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to add, this time, a mesh. And the mesh that I'm going to add is a cube. So a mesh cube, would you look at that? So I can just play with this cube for a second. If I click on this green arrow, I can drag it this way. Michael's hiding, he's back. And I can slide it up and down. So what I really need to do is I need to scale this cube right down. So I'm going to use these 3D manipulators to scale the cube. So I'm going to click on this one with the square end. And what this does, see the square ends here, is it allows me to click on that and slide it down this way. So That's about how thick I want the base to be, maybe a little bit less thick. Just like that is what I want. And then if I look, I can see I need it longer. So I'm going to click on the green arrow and I'm going to slide it out. And you'll see it expands evenly on both sides. So I want it to really just be right about on the plate. So I'm going to put it about there. And I know I'm going to have to do some moving around in a minute, but I'm just going to press shift and slide 2 fingers to move this down a bit so I can get a better view. And now I'm going to work on scaling in front to back. So I'm going to press on this red square and scale it in like that. So what I've got here as I'm scaling, I've clicked and I'm just sliding my finger on the trackpad until it gets to just the way I want it. There, and I think that's about right. And so I'm just gonna slide around my view, press shift, slide over, slide up, slide over, and I'm gonna look and I can see that actually, if I look here, slide up, control slide to zoom in, shift slide. Okay, so I can see here that it's just, I just need it to be a little bit bigger. So I'm going to just click here and there. So once you get the size about right, you can go ahead and click into this free arrow transformation. So if you just click down here, now you can start to move it around. So we can see that I'm pressing shift and slide, rotate, shift and slide. So you can see obviously the nameplate needs to be moved down. So we're going to click on this blue arrow and we're going to slide it down. And we want to make sure that the letters are actually going a little bit into the plate, because if they're not going into the plate, the letters might detach too easily. I'm going to press shift and slide over. I'm going to press control and slide backwards. And now I'm going to see how I can line it up with the L. So now you can see we have Mr. Michael. We have shift and slide, control slide back. You can see that we've got Mr. Michael written in a nice thick font. We've got the letters placed into the resting plate so that when it prints, they'll be nice and attached. And when we print, we're going to go ahead and print this laying on its back. So actually one thing we can do right now is I'm going to press shift and right click, and then I'm going to press R, Y, 90. Oops, no, I didn't want to do that. So I'm going to press escape. I'm going to press R for rotate, Y for the Y axis, minus to go backwards, and then I'm going to say 90, and it did what I wanted it to do. I'm going to press enter, and now you can see control slide to zoom out and rotate around. You can see that our file is just neatly laying down and it is ready. Let's zoom in. Ready to print. So I need to make sure that both of my objects are selected, my text object and my changed cube. And I am going to click File and Export. To use our printer, you need to export as an STL. So I'm going to click STL. And now I need to notice where I'm actually saving the file so that I can find it later. I can see that right now I'm in Users Chelsea Woods, but I'm going to go ahead and click on desktop because I just want to throw this on the desktop. So here we go. I'm going to rename the file. I'm going to call it Mr. Michael. I'm not going to put a dot in it because that would confuse my computer. So it'll be called Mr. Michael.stl. And then I'm going to click over here where it says Export STL, and I'm going to say Export STL. And now this file is saved as an STL and ready for me to upload for printing.